Today, I'm going to have a very interesting conversation. I am talking with Andrew Ewer, who is the CFO of Terrapinn. Terrapinn is a globally recognized organization that runs B2B conferences, exhibition, and training events, and has publications from all over the world. And he's going to give us some insight on what he's doing, what's working, what's not. But before we get started, my name is Donna Peterson, and you are listening to the B2B Marketing Excellence Podcast. I talk with business leaders from all over the world about their specific industries, what's working, what's not, and what marketing tactics and tips they can give us so that we can achieve our goals faster. So let's jump in. Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
I'm very good. Yourself, Donna. How are you?
I cannot complain. The sun is out here and flowers are starting to pop. So it's very beautiful.
Excellent.
Good. I was excited to have you because you have such a wealth of knowledge, one about Terrapinn, but also coming from a CFO side, which is very interesting. And I wanted to know, I know as your role as a CFO, it is your job to help your business managers grow their businesses profitably. What have you seen as the biggest challenge in achieving that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, it's something, this thing about profitable growth is a key challenge for all businesses. I think particularly coming out of COVID, where obviously COVID had its own different challenges, and now we're getting back. How can we really get the growth on, but yet get the margins up? And I think initially when I thought of this, I thought in 2022 and now going into 2023, there've been two really big key challenges that have affected that. One has been the recruitment of staff, and if I just broaden on that, we all know the broader issues is the wage growth coming with that.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of recruiting them, because, if we say recruitment consultants, you've had to engage more of them. The expense of getting staff to the interview process and getting them to actually sign up has ramped up tremendously from what we recall before COVID. So that's been one issue. The other one has been really the impact of inflation on our cost base. And I think it's starting to slow a little bit now, but it's something we've not been used to in the last decade or maybe longer. I'm old enough to remember rampant inflation, but majority of my staff are not. It goes back to their basic, hey, you need to go and ask to get 3 quotes because these costs are all coming in 10, 50% more than what we're used to spending. So I think those have been my key two challenges where I sort of sit there and been worried about on the cost side, because staffing is 70% of my overhead, and our costs are typically range to 50% of our revenue. So there's some big impacts there. I think in 23 and probably going to 24, it's a little bit on that inflation. It's about how can we increase our pricing. I think many businesses have been reluctant to increase their prices because they haven't had much price growth for the last decade or so. And you never want to price yourself out the market. But now I think, how do we go out and now we know that our costs are going up, how do we actually get that revenue growth through increase in pricing? And once again, that's something that's relatively new for many people. They've been so used to prices increasing at, I think the standard is 2%, right? Because that's what the inflation target is. Hey, we'll put our prices up by 2%. Now people are saying, hey, you're going to put our prices up by 10, 15%. And, people are almost having a bit of a heart attack over that. But, if your cost base has got up 10, 15%, to keep yourself growing profitably, you've got to raise your revenue by 50%. So
it's a tricky area. And going back to, I can imagine with Terrapinn, with your conferences and your different events, yes, staffing has to be a large percentage of your expense, and getting people that want to work and are the right fit has to be a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is. It always has been, but it's been a much bigger challenge coming out of COVID. Like many companies, we didn't have the same level of staffing as we started with, and therefore we were all going to the market at the same time. you know, and we weren't the only people going to the market. Other industries were too, but we needed to increase the staff to meet the demand of our clients.
Right.
And we are, you know, and we've grown very quickly, and there's some challenges around that, of course, that are happening. But
That's a
yeah,
good challenge to have.
it's a good challenge to have. It's better than the other challenges on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah. You don't want to be there, but yes,
No.
of course, with growth comes other challenges that you then have to figure out.
Yeah, it
And
does.
those are big ones.
Yeah.
So then this brings me into my next question for you is, while increasing sales is a crucial objective for, a profitable business growth, what would you consider to be the second significant goal to accomplish?
Yeah, so the way we, I mean, as you said in the introduction, so Terrapinn runs primarily conferences and exhibitions, and I guess we tend to call ourselves more events because some of the crossover between those two. And if you look at what makes us successful, from our clients' perspective, we need a lot of people to come to those events.
Yeah.
No one wants to spend a lot of money on a client side or anyone and then discover you're talking to a room full of 3 people. That's just not what you paid for, right?
Right.
And it doesn't feel good. So for us, it's about increasing attendance at our events. And we look at them 2 ways. One is the absolute numbers. Do we get 5,000? Do we get 6,000 people come to that show? But also the attendee profiles. So if you're looking at something like a solar show, which is going, solar is interesting nowadays. It's always been interesting, but it's really interesting nowadays. What we want to do, how many solar installers are coming to our shows? Because if you're a vendor and you're on our floor and you're trying to sell, you probably really want to sell to installers because they're going to be installing these things.
Right.
You know, not going to be selling to me. I'm not going to install it on my roof myself.
Right.
You're going to professional. So if we look and we've got 5,000 people and we've got 2,000 installers, that's a pretty good metric to go back and sell, say, this is what our show delivers. So, you know, I say improving both of these things, both absolute numbers and relevant attendee profiles, leads to improved product. And then we can, then it has that, I think, the Amazon thing about the flywheel. And then once we improve the product, then we increase sales. Can say, hey, look at this great data. Look how many people are coming. These are the profiles. These are really important for your business. You should be there.
Yeah, that's important to be able to sit there with who's attending the event, then break it down into segments so that people who might be exhibiting or advertising will be able to see, yes, you know what, that is my target audience. So I need to be at your show.
Absolutely.
This is some shows that are out there is just like, everybody come for free and they know no idea who's there. Yes, you might have a great number, but it's not helpful if they're not the right people.
I totally agree. I think, you know, if a client's looking to attend a show and they just go on the absolute number and that's it, you know, I would say buyer beware. I think you want to know the profiles. Of course, there's some monster shows out there, you know, where it's maybe even harder, but you've definitely got the profile. So often when I say, you know, you ask them what's important, and I think what helps us with this is an understanding of our target market.
Yes.
So when we design a show, an event, a conference, an exhibition, we do put on a piece of paper. We have a form. We like forms and structured templates at Terrapinn. And we say, look, who's the show for?
Yes.
Who is the buy side? You know, the people coming to visit.
Yeah.
What are their profiles? What are their job titles? We then try to work out geographically where they're likely to come from. Yeah, you know, it's often a best estimate based on our understanding of the market, based on understanding of the product.
Previous year, previous year, what did you pull from? Of course, COVID kind of messed up those numbers a little bit, but you have an idea what title level are you getting? Exactly.
And you know, we spend quite a bit of time on that, and that then drives what a question about what does your database look like. So pick on that solar and the installers. So we want 10,000 people come to the solar show in the UK. We want 3,000 installers. How many installers do we have in the database? You've got 50 because you've never gone after them before. So then you say, okay, then I need to do a data build. I need to do research. I need to find out where these installers, shall we say, live in the world that's not on my database. And therefore we can market our show to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
they're
Well,
very
because,
flat revenues.
and if you do your marketing well with a lot of research, you bring those better people to your show, which then makes your show more successful, which then helps your show continue into the future.
Yeah, so absolutely. And so I always come down to, a fundamental thing once you've gone through this, let's say, comparison of your target profile, if you want to call that, to your physical, what you have in your database.
Right.
So for me, it's got refreshing, improving, and increasing the size of our marketing database is a key driver of improving attendance. And I think size is important on this. Some people say, hey, I've got this really targeted database of 12,000 names. And, I've bought shows that have that, and I've been amazed they've got 4,000 people coming to it. But, it's the same 4,000 almost every year.
Yeah. And you want to try to get some unique new people to come and give some fresh.
And often those shows we can take and scale up because they are limited by the size of their database. And also limited maybe by not enough profiles.
Yeah, and so now you have the database, but what I have seen to a lot of shows that I'm going to, they're pulling a higher level title than normally they would. So normally you wouldn't maybe see the CEO at a show, but since COVID, for some reason, sometimes the number of attendees is lower, but they're of a higher quality.
I think I saw that at as we sort of were not 100% out of COVID, or sort of starting to come out of COVID. Some places like Asia and Australia took longer. Europe and the US were ahead of that. I think I certainly saw that. The numbers weren't, if we look at back end of 21 and early 22, the numbers weren't quite where we wanted. But you're right, the profile of people attending in terms of their job title as a percentage had gone up a lot. I think now it's broadening out a bit now and going back to, say, a bit more normal. But still, I do think you're getting more senior people coming to events. I think there's also, I suppose, one way to look at it also is a lot of senior people didn't get the opportunity to really network as much as they like. They kind of lost 2 years of their life not networking. I mean, some people might say that maybe maybe that's not a bad thing. They got on with the job. But events are a great place for networking.
Oh, yes.
And meeting people in your industry. You don't, people are self-selected that they pick on the solar show. You aren't going to go to a solar show if you're not interested in solar, because it's going to be incredibly boring. It's not going to be fun 2 days out. But if you're into solar and the broader aspects around it, that's interesting. You meet people in your industry and maybe you make good connections, good networks, maybe do some business, maybe make some sales.
Yep. I tell a lot of my clients, if you're trying to really know and understand your target audience, trade shows.
Yeah.
You go, you listen to the sessions, you speak to the exhibitors, you listen to what people are talking about amongst themselves. And I don't should all be eavesdropping on everyone's conversations, but it's very interesting to hear what's top of mind, what's challenges they're having, what technology are they looking for. You get a wealth of information from trade shows that I will say you can't get anywhere else. Yes, you can monitor social media and, yes, you can cold call people and do a survey, but you go to a trade show, give it 2-3 days. You will walk away with a wealth of knowledge to use.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think, people, that human interaction.
Things are said that they may not say direct, like in a social post, obviously it's like you say this, that's it.
Yeah.
But you're at a trade show, it goes a little deeper. And it's like what you said, when you meet in person with someone, you might talk about your industry, but then maybe you go off a little bit about, oh, where was your last vacation? Who did you see last? And that is when a relationship really starts to form. And that's what marketing's all about now. You've got to build that relationship.
Absolutely. I think that, another way of phrasing it is the engagement is much higher at a personal level, or a human level, maybe is a better way of phrasing it with trade shows. And I think that's really important. You can get a lot out of 2-3 days walking around, talking to people, and learn a lot about an industry.
Yeah.
You know.
I do that. I go to industry specific shows. Like my next one is Interfex in New York City. It's a pharmaceutical manufacturing show, but I will go there for I think I'm going for 2 days. I get a wealth of knowledge to use. And it also just helps me really understand my clients and what they're trying to accomplish. So then here's my next question for you. My next question is, right now, there's a current trend of trying to encourage virtual attendees back to attending in person. Now, I know the nature of Terrapinn's events. They're very industry specific. Was that a challenge for you, getting people back to in-person, or are you still offering virtual, hybrid, in-person? How are you doing?
Yeah, so well, maybe so like most, not everyone did it. Like most business in our industry, we went virtual during COVID, and then we had that choice of when are we coming out of it?
Yes, yeah.
So we decided that was going to be the end of virtual in 2021.
Okay.
At the back end of 21.
Yeah.
And we backed ourselves to go to live events. And I think your question, did we struggle to get people to attend? Yeah, at the beginning we did. Yeah, we did. And I don't just mean our external. I mean, some of our own staff were a bit worried, and of course we had problems, right?
Yes.
People suddenly getting sick the day before an event and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think so. There were in 21 some reluctance, and 22 actually we've seen record attendance growth.
Nice.
And it's been fairly universal. Some events have done much better than others. I'll be honest. Yeah. You know, but overall we've seen a growth in our attendance, and I think that's a little bit to do with the industry we operate in, because you know if you look across them, actually the one that we struggled with most has been the life science sector.
Oh.
Because I think perhaps it's because they're more acutely aware of the risks
around
pandemics.
They're too deep in it. They know too much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, of all the events I've been to where people have been wearing masks sort of longest has been the life science sector, but also many of them were constrained by their employers. You know, being much tougher on the HR sort of rules about attending events and not wanting them to attend events. Whereas people operating in the home delivery space who had to operate throughout the entire pandemic, delivering parcels to all of us at home, they were ready to come to the event straight away, you know, by comparison. So we have seen a move in sectors, but, you know, we're seeing attendance growth continue throughout this year. Or so far this year, we've got a long way to go still.
Excellent.
I think
I've seen that with the shows I've gone to. Slowly we're seeing the attendance go up. And what I'm also seeing is I'm seeing people stay there longer and be more involved, where, you know, you all used to go to trade shows, maybe attended one session and then left for client meetings, or always had a million other things going on. I'm seeing now when people sign up for a show, they're going and they're totally getting vested into that event and paying attention, which is great across the board. It's great for the speakers, makes them feel like what they're saying is valuable. Absolutely. But it's also good for networking. And again, like we talked about, you get to go to a conference, you get great networking, or you hear a great session, you're going to go back the next year.
Yeah. I think that is an interesting point you bring up. People are probably spending longer at the event. I think historically, you know, if I look back, I mean, you mentioned at the beginning, I've been doing this for a long time. I have actually. You know, it's been a few decades, but at the very, it always used to be, you would run out of people sort of halfway the day through day two. You know, so run out of people went there. There always has something else to leave a bit earlier and stuff like that. And many people only came for the first day. And didn't come for day two. Whereas of course, there are still some people that work in that way, and they've got various reasons why they do it. But I am seeing a lot more people coming for 2 days, and maybe that's got a little bit of function to that our shows are bigger. There's more to see. We do have a lot of content at our shows, and you know, if you compare us to maybe other people in our industry, we come from a publishing / conference background a very, very long time ago. And content's always been a key pillar in our events. And there's just a lot of content at Terrapinn show. So you can actually come for 2 days and sit through sessions for a full 2 days, even though there's a big trade show floor out there.
Yeah.
So people are coming through. I think they're enjoying the live environment again. And I think they do find it's great to be networking within their sector. And I think there's a lot going on too.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot to listen. You reference, you learn about stuff. I think there's a lot going on that you can learn about. And there's a lot of ideas out there.
Yep. And like we were just talking about, when you're trying to build a relationship with your prospects or customers, you've got to offer them education or information pieces. So going to a trade show that gives you all this great content gives you tidbits that you then can turn around and offer to your customers. So it's a win-win for everyone. You're putting on a great conference. We're absorbing all the content. We're able to take this content now and give it to our clients. They see us as a big value added.
Yeah.
And
I think that's right. Yeah.
More knowledgeable in the space and making it more effective.
Yeah, I would also add one other thing. I think if people that are coming to the trade shows on the vendor side, they've also got to be prepared to listen a little bit to the buy side. Yeah. And just hear what it is they're really looking for. Yes. You talked, I think you referenced a bit earlier, you come and you listen to get some ideas. I think that works for both sides. It's often quite a good way to, suddenly you're at the show and you've got 5,000 people. Let's say 3,000 on the buy side. You've got 3,000 people you could possibly get feedback on your product or about your product from. Yep. Why are they buying from you? Why are they not buying from you? What do they want to see differently? Yes. How's your competitor better than you are? You never want to admit they are.
Right, right.
Yeah, how do I need to adapt? Maybe is a better thing too. So I'm better than him. Yeah. Or things like that. So I think it's a great bit of interaction you can do. You can learn a lot. Both sides can learn a lot from trade shows and get a lot out of it.
Yeah, especially if they're good quality trade shows like Terrapinn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this will go into our final question, because I know I do not want to hold you much longer. You have a busy day. This is all about, there's an explosion of events right now. Like we talked about, some are virtual, some are hybrid, some are in person. But how is Terrapinn able to keep your name front and center so that people are like, you know what? No, I need to go to Terrapinn over ABC.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is a very crowded market.
Yes.
Yeah. The event space in the broadest definition. I mean, you said, even in the different ways of doing these events, the in-person that we favor, but also lots of virtual events, and then there, even within geographies, there's massive competition. I'm based in London. Yeah. There's events all the time. It's never ending when you do a search in it. So we have to find a way of distinguishing ourselves. And I think it's about really comes down to the phrase adding value. And I think go back to I truly believe that we do that. We'll go back to actually we add value by really focusing on those profiles, trying to get the right profiles to attend to the right numbers. We provide a great content offering. Both for our sponsors to speak within, if they choose. Yes. But also, we get a lot of non-sponsor speaking. So there's a lot of interesting content going on there. So there's a lot of information for the buy side. I think, is our marketing vastly different to our competitors? As a general phrase, I would say, no, it's not. It's not different. We don't do a lot of different stuff. All of us are doing email. We're doing social. We got our website. Every now and then I hear a quirk. Someone's using a slightly bit different bit of tech that we're not, and you adapt. But I think it comes on a couple of key things for us that we get correct. First of all, let's go back to understanding the target market of the event.
Yes. So important. Yeah.
Just start with that. And when we put all these things on a piece of paper, also to be clear, it's not just having a conversation and you all wander off to your separate parts of the world. Yeah. It's about aligning of the database. So what do we need to do? Where's the database deficient? Unresponsive, whatever, how you want to define that. Yeah. And then it's about this thing about messaging, marketing comms, and that's I think that's the thing that a lot of people really struggle with. Good copywriting, clarity in what you're asking the prospect to do. I came back from leave and I was looking through these emails I've got, and some from our events and some from other events that I'm in the database apparently for some of our competitors, which is interesting. And I was surprised to read some as I was scanning. I thought, what do you want from me?
Yeah. There's no clear call to action. You don't know what they want from you.
Do you want me to register? Deep down, I think you do, but if you do, just put it on the button on there somewhere. So it's about very simple, very good, clear copywriting that's easy to read, easy to understand. It delivers the message and then clarity of this what you want the prospect to do. And I think always be offering value. So you can come to this event. This is who want to come to it, and this is the content you'll get. These are the 300 stands you can go and look at the products they have for offers, for example. The other thing
listing, I've done it where we've gone with clients and listed, what's your takeaway? What are you going to leave with after you come to our conference? You're going to have knowledge on how to use the top 5 technologies, or, you just list those takeaways so people can see at a glance the value that they're going to get.
I take, for example, I attended an event in the United States recently for our industry, right? And why did I go there? Well, it sounded like it'd be a bit of fun. No, but so there's that. But the reality was, I actually sat down and said, these are the 10 things I want to get out of it. So these are the 5 people that I've been struggling to meet. They're going to be there. I want to meet them.
Yes.
And that's quite hard in a room with a few hundred people trying to find them. But
there they are.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not the only people. So how do I get myself introduced to them? These are the 2 or 3 suppliers that say on the other side that I really want to make sure I spend a bit of time with, because either they're important to Terrapinn, really use them, or because we're thinking of using them, or because they're a competitor to someone we're using. I actually just want to find out a bit more about them. There was a bit of the content I wanted. So and I gave myself a couple of, these are the outcomes I want. Now, did I get all of those done? No, I probably did about 80%. But it made it worthwhile.
That's good. 80% when you set out with your objective to a trade show is very good.
Yeah, so maybe I didn't raise the bar high enough. I don't know, but I think that's what people. How are you going to get value? What do you really want to get out of it? Because I go to shows which either I own or I'm looking at from a competitive thing, and I'm really just walking the floor to see what's there. And I think a lot of people are doing that. They shouldn't be. They should be engaging. I'm there for a different purpose altogether.
Right.
My purpose is I'm having a look at how good I think the show is. From an ownership perspective, not from an industry perspective. They need to engage more. But I think go back to how can we. I think just on the other thing on our marketing is maybe just to add, we use multiple channels, right? So we still do a lot of email. Email is important. People respond well to email.
Especially when you're having conferences and events. Email is a great way to get it out there and to continue it, and then do a push at the last minute to get those people to register.
Oh, absolutely. We have a ramp up on our marketing like anyone should have, because people get jaded if you send the same message. For 52 weeks of the year. I've got a few of those. They're in my spam folder, and I see them. I think, gee, it just comes through every week like clockwork.
You just ignore it. If it looks too much like the last one, you'll ignore it. You won't even look at it, and it's a waste of time on everyone's.
But email is very effective. A lot of people say email is dead, but I disagree. I think email's not dead. I think you just need to be a lot cleverer about it than you were maybe 10 years ago.
I totally agree, because the way we used to do, especially business to business promotion, a few years back, it's very generic. Let's go out to everybody, talk about us, where now you have to really think about your attendees. What would they want to be accomplishing from our events, and make sure that we tell them that they're going to accomplish those things, along with offering some value. Everything has to be about value, and having those good networking events at your show are very important, because that's where those relationships finally can start to form, and then they'll develop, and you'll trust the brand. When you trust the brand, you'll buy from them.
That's correct. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So, well, Andrew, I want to thank you so much. This was a great interview, and I thank you for your time.
Sure. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the B2B Marketing Excellence Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss our next episode. And in the meantime, if you'd like to talk to me, please feel free to send me an email to dpeterson@worldinnovators.com. Till next time, have a great day.